a unique trait only humans possess: the capacity for overhead-thrown projectiles. This unique ability allowed our ancestors to hunt proficiently and was crucial for their survival, and made humans such formidable predators. The definition of carnivore is any organism that consumes mostly meat. We are one of those organisms, despite the many other diets certain humans choose to adopt.
Diets that are far too carbohydrate rich.
How do I know this to be true? Well, let's first take a look at parts of our anatomy where there are a number of clear indications that this is the case. Only in the modern world do we see the degeneration of human mouths. Our ancestors had well-developed jaws with straight, robust teeth, including all their wisdom teeth.
Our ancestors didn't have crooked teeth.
The vast majority of children today require braces because they're quite simply malnourished. Our ancestors didn't suffer with crooked teeth, just like any animal in nature doesn't. So what's changed? Well, our ancestors ate mostly red meat, which is our species-specific diet and contained all the essential nutrients required for proper development. Key nutrients like vitamin D3, K2, B12, heme iron, retinol, DHA, EPA are not found in any plant foods. Furthermore, not consuming enough animal proteins will make it very difficult to get adequate amino acids because the bioavailability of amino acids in plants are very low.
Shut up! Shut up!
Oh no! Anyway.
Not only can all of these nutrients be found within fatty red meat, but actually chewing on meat itself will help develop our jaws enough to accommodate all of our teeth. The ever-shrinking of mouths in modern humans makes for a tighter airway, and this is why we have a growing number of sleep apnea sufferers. It's not genetics, it's malnutrition. Real human-compatible substrate will not cause cavities or inflame the mouth. Have you ever heard your dentist warn you about eating meat, eggs, fish, dairy? No. Sugar, however, of course. But it's not just refined sugars and fruit juices that are the culprits. Every single carbohydrate is made of glucose molecules and sugar rots teeth.
What is the worst thing to eat for tooth decay? Ooh.
Starch in particular is a problem as it gets wedged within the gaps of our teeth and erodes precious enamel, especially potato starch.
Potato starch is just about the worst thing because it hangs around in the teeth.
Earlier, I made the claim that our ancestors ate mostly meat. Well, this is evident from the nitrogen-15 stable isotope testing. In finding human remains scattered all over the planet from multiple time periods, scientists can extract the collagen from the bones and run it for carbon and nitrogen isotopes. In doing so, we can tell exactly what those humans ate, and the data tells us that humans, since the beginning of our time, have consumed 80% fatty animal products, mostly from ruminant animals. For the last 300,000 years, our genetics have not changed, in which case, we as a species should be eating a hypercarnivorous diet.
Stone Age humans have nitrogen-15 isotopes higher than wolves and hyenas.
The remaining 20% of the diet consisted mostly of roots and tubers, with some potential seasonal nuts and berries in there too. These merely supported the diet during times of unsuccessful hunting. After all, there is no such thing as an essential plant, carbohydrate, fiber, or polyphenol. Every single essential nutrient required for optimal human health can be found within fatty red meat alone. Whole eggs are also a great source of all the essential nutrients, much like small oily fish. Next up, we have our stomach pH. So humans typically range from around about 1.4 to 2, very, very low, meaning highly acidic. This kind of acidity is consistent with that of scavengers. We know that our ancestors used to survive off of remains of kills from other predators. We also have a lot of evidence of stone tools being used to get at the marrow within the bones of the carcasses, and our very acidic stomach acid would have aided the digestion of potentially contaminated raw meat. In addition to the acid, we also naturally produce a lot of bile, which is made by the liver and stored in what we call the gallbladder. This pear-shaped pouch releases bile to help break down and emulsify fats, and those fatty acids are then assimilated within our small intestine. Now, let's briefly talk about fiber. If we take a look at herbivores and omnivores that consume a lot of plant material, you'll notice that they possess a very large cecum. The cecum's job is to temporarily store plant material where the microorganisms that reside there break down and digest the cellulose. For humans, cellulose is indigestible because our cecum has become redundant.
in a gorilla or a chimpanzee, there's very long, like 4 foot long. Ours is about that big.
We now have what looks more like a dead-end pouch, our appendix, which is a vestigial cecum. We no longer possess the ability to digest fiber. Animals that eat a lot of plants, like ruminants and other primates, actually derive saturated fats from digesting fiber. This process is known as anaerobic cellulose digestion, where enzymes like cellulase are produced to liberate the cellulose and allow fermentation to take place. This is where the remaining carbohydrates are converted into fatty acids. After all, the animal kingdom runs on saturated fats. And where humans can't derive those fats from carbohydrate metabolism, we can, however, from consuming saturated fats directly from our foods. Our colons are also tiny relative to other primates and hindgut digesters. The purpose of a much larger colon is not just the reabsorption of water and electrolytes, but also to assimilate the short-chain fatty acids derived from the carbohydrate portion of the plant that we can't digest. Fiber is non-essential and offers one benefit, the generation of short-chain fatty acids, which convert into ketones to feed our gut. Well, a hypercarnivorous diet, being a ketogenic diet, means that we already have ketones circulating in our blood, so brings about the same exact benefit. Many scientists believe that we sacrificed much of our colon due to the energy required to grow and use our brain. Our brains are very large in size and don't fully form until we're around 25 years old. It happens to be the fattiest organ in the human body, comprised of approximately 60% fat. A particular omega-3 fatty acid called docosahexaenoic acid, or DHA, makes up around 40% of the fatty acids in the brain. And where the brain is able to synthesize all the other fatty acids required for brain function, DHA it cannot. So it just goes to show how important dietary DHA is. DHA does not exist in plant foods, and while ALA does, the conversion rate from ALA to DHA is very, very low indeed. Actually, recent studies show that it's potentially less than 1%. DHA is most abundant in seafood, the healthiest options being wild mackerel, sardines, herring, salmon, roe and caviar. Pastured eggs and grass-fed red meat also contain DHA, but in lower amounts. Now, our ancestors would have acquired these foods by hunting with man-made tools, such as long barb spears, stone-tipped spears, harpoons, which makes for a nice segue to my next point, which pertains to a unique trait only humans possess: the capacity for overhead-thrown projectiles. No other species can throw objects with such great speed and accuracy. This unique ability allowed our ancestors to hunt proficiently and was crucial for their survival. Compared with chimpanzees, we have 3 anatomical differences in the upper body. The first one is a longer waist, which allows for more rotation from the hips. The second, the shoulder, that sits much lower in position with the glenoid joint angled outward rather than upward, which gives the arm more leverage. And lastly, our humerus bone, which has a very subtle twist in its structure, enabling the arm to rotate further behind the body, generating more energy for overhead throwing. Combining all 3 movements creates a very powerful articulated motion that made humans such formidable predators. Despite chimpanzees being vastly more powerful than humans, a trained adult male can only throw a baseball around 20 miles per hour, where Little League pitchers between the ages of 12 and 13 regularly throw up to 70 miles per hour. This impressive human trait was utilized long before the development of competitive sports. Sharp claws and long pointed teeth were never necessary when we had such superior intelligence and the physical capabilities of hunting. Human beings are the apex of all apex predators. In fact, we've eaten the other predators out there. We've even used animal parts to create weapons to hunt more animals. For example, a traditional composite bow is made using horns and sinew. The ancient Greeks used a very similar recurved composite bow, but they believed it to be cowardly to utilize during war, and so it was mostly used to hunt with. Throughout history, humans have based their diets around meat and animal fats. Populations around the world during different eras employing unique hunting strategies and implements. Now, I understand there's going to be plenty of people right now pointing towards blue zones and the ample health these populations have. Well, Dan Buechler, the founder of the concept of blue zones, is an author, a storyteller, a public speaker who simply sold his story. It's pure propaganda. Neuromuscular nutritionist Mary Ruddick puts it best. Blue zones simply don't exist.
If I'm perfectly honest, the blue zones simply don't exist.
Okinawans consume a lot of pork and fish. Only in recent years have they been a part of Japan, and so they hardly touch things like rice.
So I've been to every single one of the blue zones, and all for long periods.
So you actually know what you're talking about.
I do, and I lived in Greece for the last 5 years.
We also have Ikaria in Greece, where they also consume lots of pork and fish and even other meats and dairy products. When they do consume vegetables, they cook them in lard. Many of the vegetables and other plant materials they show these populations to be eating were not actually a part of their traditional culture and have been introduced over the last 30 to 50 years. So are the blue zones mostly vegan or plant-based? Absolutely not. In fact, there are many other regions around the world living longer, healthier lives than those so-called blue zones. Take Hong Kong, for example. They have the longest life expectancy, they have the highest IQ, and incidentally, they happen to consume more red meat than anyone else on this planet. So the next time you question, what should we eat? The answer should be the most nutrient-dense, non-inflammatory substrate on Earth. Fatty, red meat. I do appreciate you watching. If you found this helpful in any way, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. Make sure to smash the like button. That way we can push it out in the algorithm and we can reach more people, reach a wider audience, and we can get the truth out there. Take care, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.